Genesis 39. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He was in the house of the Egyptian master. His master saw the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in the sight of his and attended him. And he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all he had. The time that he made him overseer in his house and over all the land he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessings of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and with him there, he had no concern for anything but the food that he ate. Now Joseph was handsome and good looking. And after a time, his master's wife cast her eye on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, with me here, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and as he has put everything that he has in my hand. But he is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except for yourself, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a great wickedness and sin against God?" And although she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not consent to lie beside her or to be with her. One day, however, when he went into the house to do his work, and while no one else was in the house, she caught hold of his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand, and he fled, and he ran outside. And when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and had fled outside, she called out to the members of her household, and she said, "See, my husband has brought among us a Hebrew to insult us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And when he heard me raise my voice and cry out, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." Then she kept his garment by her until her master came home, and she told him the same story, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you have brought among us came in to insult me. But as soon as I raised my voice and cried out, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." When the master heard the words that his wife had spoken to him, saying, "This is the way your servant treated me," he became enraged. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. He remained there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's care all the prisoners who were within the prison, and whatever was done there, he was with the one who did it. The chief jailer paid no heed to anything that was in Joseph's care, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper. Genesis 40. Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his bearer offended the lord of the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he waited on them, and he continued for some time in the custody. One night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison. Each his own dream, and each dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officers, who were with him in the custody of his master's house? Why are your faces downcast today? They said to him, we have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them. And Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me. So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, in my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. And as soon as it budded, its blossoms came out, and clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Then Joseph said to them, this is the interpretation. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up, your head, and restore you and to your office. And you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you. Please do me the kindness to make mention of me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this place. For in fact, I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here I have done nothing that they should have put me into the dungeons. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, I have also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked foods for Pharaoh. But the birds were eating it, and out of the basket on my head. And Joseph answered, this is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are the 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a pole, and birds will eat the flesh from you. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his cupbearing, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But the chief baker he hanged, just as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.